Hello everyone, this is Mr. Bowman from Del Rio Middle School. I'm going to be going over a few examples from your second week home-based learning packet. I'm going to be doing problems 1 and 2, 11 and 12, and 21 and 22. So just remember, all this that you're doing this week is all TEKs that have already been covered throughout the year, so it's nothing new for you. That's the reason I'm just going to do some examples just to refresh your memory. So if you look at number 1, you see we have a right triangle there, and the instructions say find each missing link to the nearest 10th. Well, anytime we have a right triangle and we're missing a side, if you remember, this is Pythagorean theorem. So the first thing we do is we look for our right angle, which is represented by this square here, and then we use that to label our sides. Sorry, I got out of focus there. Give me a second. Okay. So we identify that right angle, and if you remember, we tell you to draw an arrow to the opposite side, and that arrow will point to the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side, and it's always the letter C. And then what I'm going to do is label the smaller number A and then the larger number B. And then we're going to write our formula. In your formula charts, remember our formula for Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so now we're going to take our known values over here and plug them in. So A is 2, so don't forget to square it. 2 squared plus B, which is 7, and again square it, and then C remains a variable. Okay, so now in order to solve this, I'm going to show you how to use your calculators on your phone to help make it easier. So I'm going to be using my iPhone, and I'm going to use the calculator app, and if you turn it sideways, you see it changes to a totally different calculator, and we're going to be using the squared button right here. So I'm going to type in the number 2, and then this button right here squares it, and then it gives us our answer 4. So 2 squared is 4 plus 7 squared, so again 7 squared is 49 equals C squared. Now we're just going to add those together. So 49 plus 4, calculator shows that's 53. So 53 equals C squared. Now don't get confused and jump the gun and say, oh, that's my answer. No, this is C squared. We are solving for C. So the opposite of square is the square root. So we're going to do the square root of these sides. So if we do the square root of C squared, it becomes C, and then we need to do the square root of 53. Again, your calculator will do that for you. If you look here, right below the button we use for square, that is our square root. So I'm going to type in square root of 53, enter, there's our answer, 7.28. But our instructions say round it to the nearest 10th. So 10th is the 2. Alright, so we got to look at this number next door, the 8. Is the 8 strong or weak? If you remember, numbers 1 through 4 are weak, 5 through 9 are strong. So when we have a weak number, it stays the same. If we have a strong number, we add one more. 8 is strong, so that means we add one more. So our answer would be 7.3, which is answer choice C. Okay, then number 2, same thing. First we label, so we identify our right angle, draw our arrow across to the hypotenuse, label that C, and then this can be A and this can be B. Again, write our formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plug in our values. We know the value of A is 5. Don't forget to square it. B is unknown, so it remains a variable. And then the value of C is 10. 10 squared. Okay, so this one, again, the first thing we do is find the square. So 5 squared, 25. plus b squared equals 10 squared. So again, 10 squared, 100. Okay, so now just a little different than the first example. Now what we're going to do is solve using inverse operations. Okay, so what we need to do, if you remember, to solve an equation is the goal is to isolate the variable. So it means that we have a variable here on this side. That means we need to move the constant to the opposite side. We do that using inverse operations. So if this is a positive 25, inverse, which means opposite, means that we have to subtract. So minus 25 minus 25. That becomes 0. We're left with b squared equals, and then 100 minus 25 is 75. Use your calculators if you need to. Again, this is not our answer. We still have to do one more step. We'd have to do the square root because this is squared. So I'll draw my square root. Square root of b squared is b, and then the square root of 75. I'm going to type it into our calculator again. Square root of 75 is 8.66. But again, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So we look at the 6 next door. Is it strong or weak? We know that it's strong, so that means we add one more. So our answer is 8.7. Okay, all right, now we're going to skip over to question number 11. And remember, guys, if you're doing this on Skyward, just work it out on a separate sheet of paper to make it easier for yourself. Okay, so here what we're doing is solving an equation. Remember the steps for solving an equation we went over. D, C, V, C, D. We're going to talk about those steps right now. Okay, but first I'm actually going to rewrite my equation to make it easier to work with. So negative 2, open parenthesis, m minus 3 equals 9 minus m. So we look at our first step, D. That stands for distributive property. Remember, distributive property means we're looking for parentheses. There is parentheses. So if you remember, parentheses means to multiply. So we're going to draw our arrows here, showing that we're going to multiply these both by negative 2. Negative 2 times n is equal to negative 2m. Negative 2 times negative 3. Again, you can use your calculator. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So it's going to be plus 6. And then we just bring everything else down. That's step 1. Step 2, C. This is combine like terms. So this is where we look and we can make our shapes. I'm going to circle my variables, and I'm just going to leave my constants alone. So we look on one side of the equal sign. Can we combine those terms? No, there is only one variable and only one constant, so they can't be combined. Same thing for the other side, they cannot be combined. So we skip that step. Now the third step, V. Move variables to one side of the equal sign. Well, I'm going to move this negative 2m to the opposite side. Okay? Remember, we do this using inverse operations. Inverse means opposite. So if it's a negative 2, that means I'm going to add. So plus 2m plus 2m. Remember, we have to do it to both sides. That is equal to 0. So it means we bring down the 6 in the equal sign. And then over here, negative m plus 2m. If you remember, there's an invisible 1 there. So it's actually negative 1 plus 2, which is equal to 1m. And then we bring down our 9, and this is a positive 1, so it's plus 1m. And sorry guys, my document camera got out of focus again. Okay, so next step is a C. Move constant to the opposite side. Well, guys, remember, our goal is to isolate our variable. Right now we still have a constant on the same side, so we need to move it to the opposite side. Again, using inverse operations. So since this is a positive 9, we need to subtract. So minus 9 minus 9. Those cancel out. We're left with 1m equal sign. And then 6 minus 9 is -3. Last step, D. Divide to isolate the variable. Divide to isolate the variable. So we look, is there a number here bothering this variable? Yes, the 1. So that means we're going to divide by the number 1 to get rid of it. Okay? So we're left with m, and then -3 divided by 1 is -3. And there's your solution, C, -3. Okay, number 12. Again, same steps, D, C, V, C, D. And I'm going to write to make it a little easier to deal with. 4p minus 20 equals -4 plus 4p. Okay, so first step, again, distributive property. Are there any parentheses? There are. But you're like, well, what am I multiplying? Again, guys, when we have this negative right here, there's a 1 there. It's just invisible. We know that that's a 1, so I'm going to make that into a 1. So I'm going to multiply -1 times 4, and then -1 times 4p. -1 times 4 is -4. -1 times positive 4p is -4p, so minus 4p. And then I bring everything else down. Okay, step 2, combine like terms. Again, make a shape around my variables or constants, it doesn't matter, but I look, can I combine those? No. Can I combine these? No. So we move to the next step. Move variables to one side of the equal sign. Okay, so I'm going to move the -4p. So since it's negative, that means I add. Inverse operations means we're adding. It's the opposite. So plus 4p on both sides. 4 plus 4 is 8p. And then bring down the -20, the equal sign. And then we bring down the -4. C, move constants to the opposite side. Okay, so again, there's a constant on the same side as the variable, so we need to move it over here. Again, inverse operation tells us to add because it's a -20. So plus 20 on both sides. -4 plus 20 is positive 16. And then we bring our equal sign and our 8p. Last step, isolate the variable by dividing. So the 8 is what is attached to our variable right now, so we got to divide by 8 on both sides. So we're left p equals 16 divided by 8 is 2. So p equals 2, which is answer choice D. Okay, guys, one more set of examples. Questions number 21 and 22 now. So the instructions tell you write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. Okay, so guys, remember, how do we do this? Or what actually is first? What is actually is slope-intercept form? If you don't remember, this is y equals mx plus b. That's what these are representing, the slope-intercept form. So if we have a graph and we're looking for this, the first thing we want to do is look for pretty corners. So if you remember, pretty corners is where the line goes right through one of these corners of the grid. So one good pretty corner would be right here at -3, 2, and then another would be at 0, -3. So after we find those pretty corners, what we need to do is rise over run. And so what we do is first we can connect these together and draw a right triangle. And then we do rise over run, which means we start at that first point right here, and I'm going to count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5. So since we went up 5, we know that this is a positive 5. And you're like, how do we know? Well, guys, remember this? We've showed this all year long. Whoops, it's not very straight, but sorry guys. If we go to the right, it's positive. If we go up, it's positive. If we go to the left, it's negative. If we go down, it's negative. So since when we went up, it's a positive number. So right here, I'm going to write m, because m means our slope, right? That's this part right here. This is our slope. Actually label it right here. M equals rise over run. So our top number, the rise, is a positive 5. Okay, and now we need to run. So we're going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3. So to the left, 3, which tells us that this is a negative 3. So I'm going to put negative 3 here. Which if we simplify that, it just is this, negative 5 over 3. So that's our m. Now we need to find our b, which is our y-intercept. Guys, this is just what it sounds like. Remember, y-intercept means where does the line intersect the y-axis. So I'm going to highlight my y-axis so we know what we're looking at. And I'm looking for where does this line intersect or cross the y-axis. It does it right here. At what number is that? Negative 3. So b equals negative 3. And then what I'm going to do is just plug those into our formula. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug these numbers in. Y equals, what's our m? Negative 5 over 3. Bring down the x. And then what's our b? Negative 3. So minus 3. Does that match any of our answer choices? Yes. It matches answer choice C. Okay, one more example, guys, and then you're on your own. Number 22. Same steps again, guys. First, locate our pretty corners. So here's a pretty corner here, and here's another pretty corner here. And what we're going to do is we can connect those points. And then we are going to do rise over run to find m. So first, m equals rise over run. So rise. Actually, remember, rise does not have to necessarily mean going up. It means going up or down. So we're going to start this point, which means we're going to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So down 8, which means it's a negative 8. So negative 8. And then we run 1 to the right, which means it's going to be a positive 1. Which again, if we simplify that, it's negative 8 over 1. Then we need our b, our y-intercept. Again, I'm going to highlight my y-axis so you know what you're looking at. And where does that line intersect? Well, right here at the positive 4. So b equals 4. So now we just plug in our numbers. Substitution. Y equals mx plus b. Our m is negative 8 over 1. Bring down the x, and then our b is positive 4. So plus 4, which is answer choice A. Because, guys, we could actually simplify this to just negative 8. Okay. Alright, guys, we miss y'all a lot over here at the school. We hope to see y'all soon. But until then, we'll keep making videos and try and get you as much help as you can. Alright. Bye-bye, guys.